What's up, Legion? It is I, of course, stevezapf. This is I Still Call It a Lariat. We are a pro wrestling podcast, unlike any other pro wrestling podcast. That's actually not true. We are a lot like almost every other pro wrestling podcast. We're still better, but we're different.
I like to think that we bring something a little bit different to the table here and there, but yeah, it's still a wrestling podcast.
It's still a wrestling podcast. Like, don't get it twisted. We're still a pro wrestling podcast. With me, as always, is my tag team partner, my PIC, Mr. Showtime, Michael Wright. How you doing, Mike?
You know me, Steven. I'm living the dream.
Of course, I expect nothing else.
All day, every day.
In his palatial Showtime chateau, if you will.
Something like that.
It's something like that. A lot of stuff happened in wrestling, so we are going to be covering TNA and WWE with a slight time travel because we had SmackDown, which was the go-home show before Crown Jewel, and then Raw, which was the show directly after Crown Jewel. And if you would like to find out what our review of Crown Jewel was, we will obviously have that link down below in the description. But with that said, guys, let's talk about our nonprofit organizations that we help and promote and support. First off, of course, is Tap Cancer Out. This is a series of jiu-jitsu tournaments that help out with varying cancer relief funds, such as Alex's Lemonade Stand, American Brain Tumor Association, Isabel Santos Foundation, Little Pink Houses of Hope, Camp Sunshine, Christopher's Haven, the Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center at Johns Hopkins, CureCervicalCancer.org, First Ascent, and of course, Tom Coughlin's J-Fund. The other one that we have been promoting lately is Chris Bay's GoFundMe. That link is also in our description from now on. It's also in a lot of our social media accounts. So if you need to find a way to get this link, please. For those of you who do not know, Chris Bay, I believe it was the show directly after
That's correct.
Bound for Glory. I don't believe it was actually at Bound for Glory, but suffered a very, very serious neck injury and needed emergency surgery. A lot of the wrestling community has banded together and really helped out, whether it's even just buying his t-shirts or buying his music on iTunes and things like that. It's all going to funds to help this amazing performer that is kind of on the down and out right now after having serious emergency neck surgery. Showtime and I are actually old enough to remember when neck surgery was a career killer for most athletes. Like, you didn't get neck surgery, you fought through pain until you had to get everything fused together.
Until it was time to go. Essentially what put out Stone Cold, right?
Basically Stone Cold. It kind of what should have put out Taz. Like, Taz is an anomaly type of situation. A lot of these guys, if this was 20 years ago, they wouldn't have careers anymore. Mm-hmm. And then the other one that I would like to talk about is, of course, the American Red Cross and their varying disaster relief funds, mostly helping out with the different hurricanes that hit both Helene and Milton. Again, there are different levels of help with this. You can help financially. You can help by volunteering time. And again, a lot of these, if you're not going monetarily on these, obviously, if you know other ways of supporting, if you can send extra clothes, extra jackets, things like that, a lot of these people, like I said, they got nothing. And like, not like we're all on it. Everyone has a down day. Like, they're having a down century right now. Like, you need to, like, these people need help. And I really want to pay it forward that we help these people. It really does matter in the best possible way. I also want to apologize, guys. I'm a little off today. I am fighting the monster known as strep throat, but I will still be here for you, Legion. A little bit for Showtime, but mostly for the Legion.
No, he's here for me. This is just a conduit. No. There's been a sickness going around for everybody. I feel like the whole globe is sick these days.
It's terrible. When I went to the doctors, They literally told me that I was the 7th strep throat patient that they had that day. So it's a new pandemic.
They also had everybody drinking out of the same cup in the waiting room. So
They did. It was
that's
weird.
that's how you roll in Florida. It was that one. That's
It was
why
this
the
cup. It was so weird. That I'm glad we were able to segue that one. All right, let's get to some wrestling news. Both of the things that we want to talk about that's a little outside the WWE is involving Japan. First things first, though, I want to get yes, is Ricochet is going to be challenging Zack Sabre Jr. for the IWGP World Heavyweight Title at Wrestle Dynasty in on January the 5th, which is the AEW show technically, not Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, it's the show after
Wrestle Kingdom. The day after. Still at the Tokyo Dome.
Sure.
But it's the day after. Here's my only issue with this. Zack Sabre Jr. doesn't actually have a match for Wrestle Kingdom. He's the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. They still have not announced what his match is for the Tokyo Dome yet, but they announced this match for the day after the Tokyo Dome. Or still the Tokyo Dome, but the day after Wrestle Kingdom. I feel like maybe this match should have been for actual Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, just put it on the show. I mean, Ricochet is a big enough draw. This is his first time back in Japan in a number of years. It's like 15 years plus.
Quite a number of years, because he was with WWE for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. So it's a really big homecoming, awesome moment for Ricochet to go back there and wrestle in a place that he had a lot of iconic matches.
I mean, the whole him and Will Ospreay thing happened in Japan. This is exciting. It's also a little weird because they've been setting Ricochet up as this like kind of underneath babyface that's chasing Takeshita around the world right now. And then he came out and sneak attacked Zack Sabre Jr.
What? An AEW talent jumping from face to heel? What?
Without any with no preconceived notion as to why?
They would never.
It's because they're not faces and heels. They're just stars. That's what I hear.
Is that what it is?
That's what I've heard. That is what Mr. Meltzer, I'll call him, says. Is it doesn't matter as long as they're still stars. I think he's wrong, but
yeah, I mean, you need continuity in your story. That's all. I mean, nothing.
Just a scotch. The other
except for Swerve, it's in his name.
He can swerve back and forth. It's literally in his name.
I'm over it now. I get it now with him, but he's the only one. It's like part of his gimmick.
It's completely part of his gimmick. That's why they made his name that.
Yeah, I mean, I buy that. At this point, it's the only thing that makes sense.
It's got to. It's got to be that. So, other news is there has been a fake report that WWE Backlash 2025 was going to be at the Tokyo Dome as well. This was reported by, again, Mr. Meltzer, and then 9 minutes later rescinded and said that was fake news. A lot of people jumped on this. Here's where I'm reporting on this. One, guys, we don't tend to report on stuff unless we can absolutely verify it. And that is one of the things that I know myself, Showtime, Hound, even Scarps while he was here, we were very, very adamant about that. So the main reason why I'm reporting on this is because we don't really report fake news. Like even if we're reporting fake news, we report it as a rumor, as such, where, hey, we've heard this, but there's no verification. And we say words such as that there's no verification behind it.
Rumor has it.
Rumor has it. Now then, rumor does still have it. That Backlash might still be in Japan, which I think would be cool.
I hope it's at the Tokyo Dome.
I hope it's at the Tokyo Dome now, too.
That this is actually true.
And it ends up being true. I hope all of it's true. The thing is, though, is until it is true, don't tell people. It's kind of that simple.
I'm curious if Dave let it out the cat out of the bag before it happens. Maybe he was just completely wrong and someone was just trolling him, which wouldn't be surprised. It's just interesting. it's interesting for someone at his level to release this without it being true. And we have talked at numerous accounts that how WWE has been really good at like seeding false news to get people off the trail. That's why I don't trust anything. Like it's when they're like, that sky is definitely red. It's red. I'm telling you it's red. Or it's not red. And then it turns out to be red. Like just the way this works and the way that they're using the news outlets these days.
So I'm only going on this one because this is not the first time that Dave Meltzer has done this.
Mm-hmm.
He reports things inaccurately and then 10 minutes later rescinds it quite a bit. Or at least this year. This year it has happened quite a few times. I wouldn't be surprised if WWE magically leaked out something to one of his contacts so that they would report this and then be like, we never said that.
Well, it's ridiculous. It's a false
We would
statement.
never do that. Why would we do Backlash in Japan? I don't know, because you've done it in Puerto Rico and France and it's done very well everywhere else that's not America.
But how WWE would it be to make everybody walk it back? And then it's at the Tokyo Dome in Japan.
Ends up being just like whatever the building is next to the Tokyo Dome.
Sure.
Whatever that arena is. Where do the Tokyo Dragons play? That's where it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. But with that, we had a little bit of fun with that one. Let's move on to the one promotion that I feel we genuinely champion, and that is Total Nonstop Wrestling Impact. This was the show.
Total Nonstop Wrestling?
Total Nonstop Action Impact.
You said Total Nonstop Wrestling, not action, I think.
See, that's how sick I am. Listen, ladder in the ladder in the bench.
Hey. No, I sorry, I wasn't calling you out. I just thought like I didn't know what the name of the promotion was. I'm like, well then what's the A?
Total Nonstop Action, yes.
Which I knew that, but I was like, wait, I don't know.
Oh man,
they changed
maybe I'm getting
their name every couple of weeks. So
I mean that is true. They were Global Force for a minute there.
Yeah, so that I wasn't throwing shade at you, but yes, I did call it the ladder in the bank. Is that what I called it? So no one mentioned it. Let me get away with it.
So we get an opening to the show with Frankie Kazarian coming down.
That wasn't Frankie Kazarian. That was Joe Hendry. As
Joe Hendry.
He was so good as Joe Hendry.
He's so good. I can't believe he glued a fake beard on himself.
It was so good.
And like a fake patchy beard too. Did you see it? Like,
yeah. He was like, he got like, I mean, we're fans of Frankie. We're not really don't hide it. Like we knew him when, and those people who were in in those promotions when we were first breaking into the business always hold a special spot in our hearts. So we are biased, and I get that. But he got so much more over with me when he came out as Joe Hendry right around Halloween, and had that really terrible Scottish accent and hit all the points. Missed the turn when the music ended. It was perfect.
So Frankie Kazarian was the star of this episode of Impact for me.
I agree.
Not just for this. There's stuff later that he does, and he is 20 years later, and Frankie Kazarian is doing his best work right now because he can still go in the ring, which is insane.
Yeah, he can. He puts on some of the best matches in TNA.
Obviously, Joe Hendry comes out to interrupt Frankie Kazarian. He kind of runs away a little bit. Hendry accuses Nick Nemeth of knowing what was happening at Bound for Glory, that he knew JBL came out and walloped the hell out of, well, everybody. I have here, it seems like everyone's kind of interrupting everyone during this segment because the system also came down. At one point, Nick Nemeth says he had petitioned to Santino Marella to get Joe Hendry his title rematch. and Santino said no, and he said the system is flawed or the system is broken. So of course the system came down and was like, the system is not flawed. The system still runs things here.
Well, they said when you say our name, we also appear, or something along those lines.
Yeah, and they were like, "See, we can do that one too, kid."
Yeah.
Alicia Edwards might be the most annoying person on the planet, which I think works for her.
It's rough.
It's
she
rough.
is.
Like, I can't tell yet if she's on the level of me wanting to turn off the TV or me wanting to see her get slapped in the face. I think I'm still at the slapped in the face part.
Definitely. But she's kind of nails on chalkboard at this point in time.
Oh, yeah. It's a bit rough. Like, it's worse than Stephanie McMahon used to be in the day sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good segment all around. You get matchmaking between Hendry and Nemeth against two members of the system. So it's Edward Edwards and Johnny Dango Curtis versus Joe Hendry and Nick Nemeth.
My favorite part was when Frankie tried to join it. He goes, "Why don't we make it a 6-man?" When he said that, I really wanted them to take him up on it.
I thought they were going to do it too. I was like, yeah, let's do it. This is a great idea. It makes no
sense, but I love it.
This is one of those times I felt like it didn't need to make sense.
Sure. And then they beat the crap out of him.
Alicia Edwards sticks around with Tasha Steelz and kind of runs down Masha Slamovich, who obviously comes down and gets jumped. Jordan Grace then makes the save. And again, we get Santino making the match for this as well, which it's going to be as he put it, Masha Slamovich and Jordan Grace versus Alicia Edwards and Tasha Steelz next week. I love Santino Marella.
He's so funny.
The first official match on this show is First Class, consisting of course, AJ Francis and Casey Navarro against the finally reunited team of the Rascals, who has not wrestled together in 4 months. Ever since the whole Wesley thing and them injuring the one member. This match was good. I'm a little disappointed that the Rascals didn't come out on top on this. I'd like to see, like, I know they've been pushing Zachary Wentz a little bit as more of a singles guy lately, but I would definitely like to see the Rascals be set up as almost like a new school Rockers type team, that young, fast, good looking babyface tag team that, but like for this generation, I feel like they fit well for this generation's version of that. They don't need to be wearing, bandanas and tie-dye. They can do this.
But they can.
I think they could also. I think there's a world where they do. Like next Halloween, if they came out dressed as the Rockers, I'm in.
Yeah.
First Class does take the win, which someone is high on AJ Francis that I don't know about.
Yeah, they sure are.
Like, does someone know something I don't? Like, I know the guy. I've heard he's actually a nice guy, so I hate running down anything other than his work. But I'm running down his work.
Maybe he knows something, so he gets put over that way.
Yeah, like, does he know where a body's buried? Because it's
wrestling. There's bodies buried.
And like the funny thing is the kid he's with, Casey Navarro. I've known Casey Navarro for a long time. He used to be like Kid Candy or something like that, like the Sugar Rush King or whatever. And he's come a long way. He's put on some size and stuff. I know he's not the biggest dude in the world, but I'm really impressed with how far he's kind of come along and how serious he's taken this business. Again, I'd like to see what they're doing with this, where if how they're building up this tag team division. Again, this is still what I consider the best tag team division in wrestling right now.
they take it seriously. Like the tag team division in TNA is taken seriously, which I think no one else is doing right now.
TNA's tag team division can main event a pay. Well, it did main event a pay-per-view. But I mean, they could do it on the regular, even without the Hardys being a part of it. And next up, we have what I'm going to consider match of the week. And that is Josh Alexander with his mystery opponents, who ended up being the Good Hands, versus Steve Macklin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham. Big surprise, Jonathan Gresham is involved in one of my matches of the weeks.
Is the Good Hands the ones that clap for Joe Hendry? No.
Yes. No.
Yes.
Maybe. Yes. I like that Josh Alexander is also jumping on a conspiracy theory. He's like, oh, of course the rest of the Northern Armory couldn't get in here because of travel issues. Yeah. I'm sure someone, and he says it, he's like, I'm sure someone stooged them out.
Yep.
I'm like, you know what? I like the way he's doing it, and it's a little different than what like Kevin Owens is doing. Although I think there's a chance that both of them are right.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Owens is doing very, very different. I think Kevin Owens is knee deep in it, and I think he's going mad. I think that's the path he's headed down. He's going to be twitchy after a while. I don't see that from Josh Alexander. He's too stable of a person.
This was good though. We got a lot of good wrestling, and I know it's weird to hear on a wrestling podcast about wrestling shows, but we got good wrestling in this match. Jonathan Gresham is always a joy to watch. He did a lot of really cool stuff, and it seemed like they were almost setting up all three of these guys really trying to like call out Josh Alexander more than anything, which a Josh Alexander, Jonathan Gresham match, I would not be mad about. That's that. By the way, if somehow we get Josh Alexander versus Jonathan Gresham next week, that I'll tell you right now, that's match of the week.
This is a perfect opportunity in this kind of 6-man tag to open up some, I don't want to say dream matchups, but matchups like you helped him, so now I'm going to hurt you. Now, like you interjected yourself in this feud that we have. Now there's a toll to be paid. So like I could definitely see Josh Alexander going up against Eric Young or going up against Jonathan Gresham in the next 2 weeks before we have another big match with
him
Josh
and
Alexander and Macklin. Yeah, I don't know. Like I wish there's a bit of a tag team mentality here, because you'll definitely have Macklin and one of these guys go up against the Northern Armory eventually. So like I'm curious on how they kind of work that out, because though Macklin can tag with pretty much anybody and be a solid team,
and kind of Eric Young too.
Sure,
Young's been. I mean, he's the consummate all-arounder at this point. If they make him a heel, I believe it. If they make him a babyface, I believe it. Don't fire me, EY. Just saying. He's the original Showtime. He's the original Showtime.
Was he doing it before me?
I think just before you. He was Showtime Eric Young. He was never Mr. Showtime, though.
It's different. I'm
It's
way
where
more
the crowbar is. So that's why you guys could coexist. We get a little quick backstage thing with Trent Seven and Speedball Mike Bailey, which is supposed to be taking place right after Bound for Glory, where Mike Bailey is telling Trent Seven not to give up, even though he got, just royally tossed out of that gauntlet match. And it gets interrupted by the system, and it somehow sets up Moose versus Mike Bailey for the X Division title.
Why in the world does Moose need the X Division title?
Because there's no weight limits.
Yeah, but what's the point? But Moose isn't like Moose should be positioning himself back into the world title contenders. Like, so, I know there's people there right now, but he doesn't need this title.
So he doesn't actually say anything about like trying to take the title. I mean, he does. It kind of the way he says it is, if I wanted to take your little X Division title, I could do it anytime I wanted.
Sure, I buy that.
And that's all he says. And then Bailey goes, well, how about we do that then? And all of a sudden that's a thing. And literally the face you're making is the face that Trent Seven is making in the background. You literally can see Trent Seven going,
It's like, what are we doing here?
like he was just giving me a pep talk. Now he's facing a former world champion.
Yeah, and I could see this being Mike Bailey going over on Moose, kind of giving him the rub to kind of really legitimize him. But they just I just don't want to see them start jobbing out Moose. Like, he had such a dominant run, and now he's going to go on a losing streak. I'm just not a fan of that.
I don't know if this is so. I kind of think that this is actually setting up that Trent Seven's gonna jump Mike Bailey during this. I think he's gonna lose his mind, and he's gonna take advantage of this, and the match is gonna get like thrown out or something, and this is gonna be more about setting up Mike Bailey and Trent Seven.
Cool. I'd be aligned with that.
Like, I don't think that Moose is gonna win this. He's not gonna win the X Division title. I think if
Might as well
anything,
go
this
after
is
put him up against POC for the digital media title
and the international title.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's not do that either. Next match we get is going to be Danny Luna from Spitfire, one half of the Knockouts Tag Team Champions, versus Ash by Elegance. This whole thing is obviously to set up the Elegances. That's just what I'm calling them now. I don't know what they're actually going.
The Elegai?
Elegai? Is that the plural for elegance?
Is elegance the plural of elegance?
I think so. Elegante? No, wait, that's wrestler.
Elegancies?
I don't know.
If you guys know, write it in the description below, please. Please educate us.
You can email us too. Actually, email me this one because I want to shout you out if you let us know.
Elegante. That's my leading one, I think.
But clearly this is setting up Heather by Elegance and Ash by Elegance for a tag team title shot. They end up Ash ends up taking the win on this one via shenanigans. During this match, shenanigans. During this match, though, they make a pretty huge announcement for going into the new year. They're going to actually start doing some live impacts.
Oh, great!
That, including while you're watching it on TNA Plus, it's still going to be live. So when they do the picture-in-picture and stuff, it'll probably be the same thing. Which this is similar to what WWE is saying is going to be happening with Raw on Netflix, where if you pay for commercial-less Netflix, you'll be, when Raw goes to commercials, you'll be able to still watch whatever match is going on.
You mean that you can actually watch a main event without having 2 commercial breaks?
Or even 3 sometimes.
It's malarkey. I'm really pumped for this setup. I actually hope the Elegante, or however I said it a second ago, I don't like it as much now. I hope that they Elegante. That's how I said it the first time. I hope they actually win these titles because I want them to do something with Ash. She has really been coming into her own as a performer, as a wrestler, and I think they don't quite know what to do with her. They definitely team these two up in order to give her kind of a role, and let's get her a title. I think she needs one.
I think this would be cool as well. I think this would be a really good idea to, and not that I have anything against Spitfire, but they're just good wrestlers.
Yeah, they're fine.
Like I hate to say it like that, but like they don't give me much more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong. I think they're a great team, and I think they put on great matches. But
they're great.
But that's what they are. They're good wrestlers.
Like, I could see these two teams going back and forth for a little bit, where they drop the belts to each other back and forth, which is fun. Like, I don't think that we do that enough anymore. where titles swap back and forth between two relatively equal allies, and with these guys being a little bit more straight, you know, like straight men, straight women, the versus the over the top Ash by Elegance and everybody else there. Could be a good dynamic where they work off of each other and you kind of see the tag titles bounce back and forth a little bit. I like that. I just hate nowadays with titles in general. They typically just hang on to them for a bit. The only one that hasn't really done that was the IC title, because I think they just can't make up their mind as it bounces back and forth a little bit more than we're used to. But most of the time, you win a title, it's like, all right, dig in. You got 6 months, you got 3 months of defenses at minimum.
I think that's just them trying to switch up the idea, because for a while there was a long time they were passing around titles like hot potatoes.
Yeah, I like a balance. Like, I don't want to see them pass around all of the titles, but like have one that kind of goes back and forth. And like that's why I always like the TV title, because when that moved around, it was fine because that's what it was meant to do, and then give somebody a spotlight for a couple weeks, and then pass that title off.
I feel like they were able to do with the cruiserweight title a bit too, because like that was
Yeah.
the point of the cruiserweight. Like everybody was almost on equal footing.
Yeah. Because and it really did come down to skill and how you can kind of get that pin at the end. Like anyone can win at any given Monday.
Yes.
Question mark?
We get Lai Ying Lee back in the ring again against Maggie Moore. So my notes on this: if you don't have an entrance and your name is double alliterative, assume you're doing the job.
No.
I'm just saying. Maggie Moore, you are no Peter Parker. And the job she did. But then Savannah Evans comes out and jumps Lee after the match. This is a return for Savannah Evans. I'm not gonna lie to the people. I'm not super familiar with this young lady, but she seems like she's just a raw powerhouse, and I think this is them bringing someone back like this to possibly replace the leaving Jordan Grace.
Mm-hmm.
You need to, don't get me wrong, Masha is the new Jordan, but you need someone else to kind of fill the void at that point a little bit too. We get a really cool Mike Santana backstage promo on this one. He's talking about how he's the only guy that's ever beaten every member of the system, which is true. And he's managed to take care of his personal business in this case. And after the match at Bound for Glory, he gave a phone call to his daughter, and she said, "Dad, I'm so proud of you, but now it's time for you to do the big thing and go after the world title." And they look like they're ready to push Mike Santana. And I'll tell you what, he looks like he's ready to take it.
Yeah, he does. I'm just confused because I don't see how he can beat Nick Nemeth right now based on the storyline that's happening. And TNA is the one place that they'll do whatever they want. So like make sense or not, or like keep you guessing. We've said numerous times we've just tried to do kind of unofficial predictions with TNA, and man, do we get a lot of them wrong. So many. They do
this
not
doesn't
play
make any sense.
Yeah, they don't play it by conventional wisdom by any means. But like right now, like that whole storyline, like there's so many people in the world title storyline right now that I'm really excited to see. I don't want them to rush that stuff to get Mike Santana in here. I'd rather wait a little bit without him losing his heat before he comes and challenges whoever he happens to challenge.
I think they're gonna. I wouldn't be surprised if they do something with Santana. I don't even know if it's gonna be a program, but I could see them doing some type of. I don't want to say tournament, but I could see it being a tournament type situation where Santana needs to win a tournament over the next couple months. And this way it gives you time to clear up the Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry situation. It gives you time to figure out what you're doing with Frankie with the cup. and it gives you time to figure out how you're fitting Mike Santana into this whole thing.
Yep. It's muddy right now. There's too many cooks in the kitchen, as they say.
Get out of the
But
kitchen.
I'm full support of it. I've liked him. He's had a great return. His storyline from the whole time. I like how real he is. We talk about like kind of some of these stories. Like even if you look at Cody Rhodes isn't real. Like you keep on, he's a politician. He's got a good story. He's very entertaining. Mike Santana is like a real dude, and like you can easily get behind the realism that his character portrays.
Well, Santana's that guy. I also brought up like sometimes you have to live in your lane, and I feel like he still lives in his lane. Like Santana has this hand that he was dealt, and he plays that hand. He's a decent looking dude. He's athletic, and he talks well. Cool, but he's also is from Brooklyn, New York.
Mm-hmm.
He can play that. He's still a tough dude from Brooklyn, and I buy all of that. Like I believe that he probably saw someone get shot because he's probably seen someone get shot.
You believe?
I
guess that
believe.
wasn't the right time.
I believe in a couple guys in TNA.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in TNA actually. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know we joke that it's not even a joke, but we say we champion this a lot. TNA is hands down probably the most fun wrestling show that I watch every week.
Yep. Very digestible. It's one a week.
1 a week. It's just one. And it's cut down because of commercials to like hour and 24 minutes. I can live in that world. But now we get the main event of the night, the main event, with Frankie Kazarian on commentary. Actual Frankie Kazarian. He is no longer dressed in Joe Hendry garb. The first note I literally have on here is I love Frankie Kazarian on commentary.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's so good. Like the stuff he's saying and the insults he says. He's like, oh, I get it. He's like, oh, what are you supposed to be dressed up as? A mark? Jesus Christ, you're terrible.
He got me the other day when going into the Bound for Glory when he was reading the Earl Hebner book. Like it's such a little detail, but he was preparing for his match.
Yeah, he's like, can't you see I'm studying?
Yeah, like licking his fingers as he turns the page. It was good. He's funny.
Oh man. I don't say this often. Nick Nemeth did something during this match, wrestling wise, that I actually didn't like. And I have tutored other wrestlers on this. He did one of the arm ringers, but then like twisted it like 3 or 4 times. And the guy never flipped over or anything like that. For young wrestlers out there, if you were listening to this podcast, the reason why I always advise against this is because at one point I've had a conversation with someone in my early 20s about this, and it made sense. If you were to take someone's wrist and twist their arm 3 times, their arm would no longer be in its socket.
Mm-hmm.
So, to suspend disbelief, if you are to do this, the other wrestler must do the flip bump. They must.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're just lying to people. Big fat liar faces. Which also proves Nick Nemeth is probably lying about JBL.
He's definitely lying.
He's definitely lying. He used the term plausible deniability. You want to know who says that? Guilty people. Even Frankie Kazarian says that. And I agree with Frankie. Oh, man. My favorite part of this whole match is Kazarian. His stuff is so good this whole time. But we end up getting Eddie Edwards gets the pin over Nick Nemeth. There's more dissension between Nick Nemeth and Joe Hendry. They're arguing the entire way up the ramp. And that's kind of the end of Impact. Now then, there is more that they do, and they do even announce it on the show that they are following up with some of the stuff via social media. I like that they're taking advantage of this as the extended stuff. I know you, Showtime, you and I have spoken quite a bit about taking advantage of the world of social media in this way, shape, and form. I'm a big fan of the fact that the way they're doing things now, the stuff with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, the stuff with this, where it used to be in a world where, well, you had to set it up where this guy got jumped and we had to figure out that they got jumped somewhere, that there happened to be a camera there. Well, there's a camera everywhere now. We literally walk around with them in our pockets.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's just a matter of relying on these fans to do the work for you. And I like that a lot of these companies are doing that now.
Yeah, and this segment that ends up going on afterwards that they posted on social media was fantastic. It was so real. Like I really like while watching it, I'm like, oh man, these guys really are mad at each other. Like Ryan Nemeth interjecting himself into it and getting fired up. Nick was a little flip floppy because he was sitting there saying to Ryan, "No, he didn't do it on purpose. No, everything's fine." And the minute Joe Hendry walks out, he completely flips the script. So that was a little jarring, but nonetheless, because he's lying, right? But then Joe comes out really heated. Everyone's hot. I thought that this was done really, really well. This whole segment was fantastic, really driving home that realism that I think wrestling needs more than anything else. Because if you can really lay down this realism, you kind of are. It's easier for you to suspend that disbelief.
Well, so that was TNA this week. Guys, we also have our TNA Bound for Glory review has been posted. Also, as we said, there was a lot posted last week. We released our TNA Bound for Glory review. We released our Crown Jewel preview. We have already released our Crown Jewel review by the time you are hearing this. So we will not be giving spoilers until we get to the Raw portion of this. But with that said, let's talk about the WWE and Friday Night SmackDown. This was obviously pre-taped. It's the go home before Crown Jewel. The show opens with Liv and Nia kind of having a square off, very similar to like how Cody and Gunther have been doing. And we get Tiffy coming out to kind of threatening both of them. I like this version of Tiffany. We're kind of at the point where just turn her face, though.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need to stop dancing around it. Either we need to have Tiffany snap, or we need to, we need to have something happen.
Yeah, it's just a big old tease, and she keeps listening. Like, she keeps trying to cash in the title, the Money in the Bank, and then Nia's like, no, you can't do that. It's like, well, just do it. It's your briefcase. Cash it in when you want to.
And it's very weird that she's listening, considering the fact that the entirety of her character is that of an entitled spoiled brat.
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's entitled is going to do what they want, no matter what. I do what I want. Mr. Showtime Michael Wright does what he wants.
I do what I want.
Do what I want. I can do whatever I want, so long as what I want doesn't mess up what he wants.
That's
literally a Michael Wright line.
Mm-hmm.
With that, Tiffany threatens Liv and asks if Dom comes with the belt. I love that part, and she could use a little dirty in her life. First of all, what the hell, though?
It's the mustache. I was thinking about growing it in.
Is it that, or is it the mullet? I don't know if you can't do the mullet, man.
I could do a skullet.
Could do a skullet. I don't think that works the same. Hogan's not pulling the same babes that Dom is.
I mean, I don't know. I'm sure he's pulling some.
I mean, maybe.
Just he doesn't do it on camera anymore.
That's true. But I mean, was this Tom or was this Nick?
I don't know. I saw the picture of the two of them. R-Truth finally found them. Tom and Nick.
I actually really like this interaction, and it leads to Tiffy just. I feel like Liv is just taking shots now because she knows how good she sells them.
Mm-hmm.
Like ever since I complimented that a few weeks ago, she's been taking some monster punches in the face and like headbutts and stuff. But this immediately leads into a match between Liv and Tiffany. Liv ends up cheating to win. I felt like Tiffany was kind of back on her feet, even though she did get hit with the briefcase. But like Nia killed everybody, literally everybody. There was no reason why Tiffany couldn't cash in on Liv at this point. Again, like none of this is this just Nia doesn't want her to have to face Tiffany? Like she doesn't want Tiffany to have to face Nia ever. She's telling her to cash in after she beats her, but like a couple weeks ago she was telling her to cash in on Raw while like Liv was laid out. So again, this is bad continuity.
Yeah, like I don't understand why Nia wouldn't want Tiffany to cash it in on Liv, because that protects her. Like that makes that sense, but they're gonna string it along and string it along. I just hate how with Money in the Bank, usually that person is booked kind of weekly, and not like consistently, but like underperforming, because they end up getting jobbed out. Tiffany gets a little jobbed out here. Like I've seen some stats where after winning Money in the Bank, the win percentage of that person is minuscule. It's really small. Like Nick Nemeth, I think, is one of the top examples of it, where I think afterwards he had like a 22% win percentage while holding the Money in the Bank briefcase, which makes
Who's
sense.
Big E. Big E didn't win a single title, or didn't win his. He never like he didn't have a title defense or something like that, where like or he didn't win a single title defense the entire time he was the WWE champion. Nemeth only had one title defense.
Well, I'm not saying the title defense. I'm like saying like before he cashed in the Money in the Bank.
No, I know he was leading up to it, like his win like, percentage had gone way down.
Yeah, while holding the briefcase, you don't win matches. You like get booked really weakly, and it almost makes it not believable that you're going to cash in and win. And like Dolph Ziggler at the time, it was a different one. It was a different example of it because like I feel like he always was like that, and it really made it believable that Alberto Del Rio might actually beat him in that cash in. But I just think it's something where they don't like to put over the Money in the Bank winner for some reason.
I don't get it. Like that's the whole reason for having it too.
Yeah,
like, you just went through a grueling 6-person ladder match.
You threw poor Chelsea Green off a giant ladder through some tables, and so she deserves everything she got. But it's just as soon as you get it, it's just a poor booking.
I agree. So talk about poor booking. We get the Street Profits versus Pretty Deadly.
I feel like this is the obligatory SmackDown match.
This is the obligatory SmackDown match. This is the 4 guys that we know are not going to Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
So here you go. We're going to throw you in there real quick. Which is, by the way, Street Profits win it. If you really wanted to know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't improve anything. And then we get the obligatory SmackDown female match with Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell versus Naomi and Bayley in Indy Hartwell's last match, because she was literally released the day before this match got aired.
Yeah, it was aired after she was released.
Yes. And apparently she was released and she found out via internet. That's a little sad.
Mm-hmm.
We get... So the ending of this match is them doing the screwy finish again, where Naomi is the legal competitor, so they wouldn't allow the pin or whatever. Listen, like 2 weeks ago I said it was a cool ending. That doesn't mean you have to do it every week.
Buckle up.
And what's more is Corey Graves is the one who says it during the match is, well, if Naomi's the one that's legal, why isn't she getting counted on the outside of the ring where she's been for the last 4 minutes?
Yep.
I hate go home shows sometimes. Sorry, guys.
I feel like every SmackDown these days is a go home show.
They've gotten a little rocky lately. And I don't mean like Rocky Balboa. I mean like not
The
smooth.
Rock?
We see Lash Legend versus Io Sky versus Bianca Belair versus Piper Niven. One half of all the tag teams that are going into the women's tag team title match at Crown Jewel. Io Sky ends up winning this. I like that it seems like they are trying to book Io kind of strong.
Mm-hmm.
I like Io Sky. Honestly, Lash Legend is the only one that I question in this whole match all the time. And I think her thing is just inexperience. I chalk up a lot of Lash Legend to inexperience. But Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and Piper Niven, if this had been a three-way match with the three of them, I would have been all in on this match.
Sure. Yeah, I feel like they've booked Io pretty strong the whole way. Even when she does lose, she kind of in her segments comes off as a bit of a badass. Um, and I'm happy how they handle her to a certain degree. I feel like she should be in the singles division, which let's see how that turns out later. But we'll see. Kind of like I don't really love her in the tag capacity. I want to see her, on her own.
I agree. Like you said, Io wins this. They try to use this as possible foreshadowing into what happens at Crown Jewel. We will again. We talk about that in our Crown Jewel review.
Yep. No
That
spoilers.
link
Not
will
yet.
be down below. Next segment that we do get out of this show is going to be Jimmy and Roman coming out, and they are joined by main event Jey Uso. And man, is Jey Uso still so over.
So over.
So over. I like that they tried to clear the air on this a little bit, even though it was still pretty confrontational. But I also love the fact that all three of them put the ones up. Come on, man. Like, it gets a little nostalgic. Don't get me wrong. Roman's still a bad man that did a lot of bad things. I'm a big softie at heart. I want to see the family get back together. I'll put it up for them.
The original bloodline.
Original bloodline. And Jacob Fatu. I'll do anything for Jacob Fatu, mainly because much like Hound, I'm scared of him.
Fair.
The main event of this show was Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes versus Imperium. Orton and Rhodes end up winning the match. Afterwards, Cody gets caught in a sleeper hold, and Kevin Owens attacks Randy Orton. I kind of like that Owens only attacked Randy during this. Like, that's the level of snapped he's gotten, where he's he has such blinders on that he hates Cody, but like all he can see is Randy right now. But that was SmackDown, like we said. Go home episode going into Crown Jewel. And we will do our little bit of time travel now. Hold on for a second, guys. Oh, is it not going? Okay. Oh, there we go.
Yep. So you are no longer in the spoiler-free zone.
You are no longer in spoiler-free zone, guys. You are now after Crown Jewel. We are now going to talk about Monday Night Raw, which aired on November 4th, 2024. That is 2 days after Crown Jewel. Again, guys, this is literally the show directly after Crown Jewel. So we are now going to talk about spoilers, but also still check out our Crown Jewel review episode description below. Show opens with Bianca and Jade in the ring with Liv and Raquel. This heated discussion leads to us finding out that since Rhea has been taken out, allegedly by Liv and Raquel, allegedly, that we will now have a number one contender battle royal for the women's world title. We had to get something for this. I kind of
Yep.
like that they managed to still get this out before they left Saudi.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta honestly, the crowd during this Raw was hot. I felt like this crowd was actually hotter than Crown Jewel.
Yeah, I was actually a little disappointed on the crowd noise from Crown Jewel after all the other European shows that we had seen. I know this is not Europe. I know that much about geography.
Stupid Americans.
Stupid Americans.
Um. So I think this show was where Crown Jewel is kind of done more for the royalty. I think this show was done with the people in mind. And so the royalty didn't really show up in the droves that they did for the other one. So I think you got more fan base out of this rather than the 60,000 and 10,000 of them were Saudi royalty. That's why I think the crowd was better. It's because it was a real crowd.
Yeah.
So we get this.
It's like the Super Bowl crowds. 75%, 80%, 90% of the Super Bowl crowds are all just corporate tickets.
I'd still love to have one.
I've been there.
Show off. Showtime to show off.
Sounds about right.
Yep, because he likes to sell out.
What did I say the other day? I'm easily bought. I'm not cheap, but easily bought.
Yes. Jeez. All right, so we get our number one contender battle royal. Io Sky wins this. The final two are her and Lyra Valkyria. And Io Sky wins this with what we have called the nastiest German suplex that we have ever seen. Ever.
Ding, fries are done.
Like ding, 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 fries are done. A high arched German suplex on the apron. Like, and it was a bridging German suplex. Like, she didn't even release it.
Right on her head. Like, she spikes her right there.
Right on her dome piece. And let's face it, if this was just a scotch further along, that could have been like on the stairs or something like that. Like, like I'm not a big fan of everyone that's doing the moves on the apron anymore. But wow, with this one. First of all, kudos to Lyra for being willing to take this.
Yeah.
Secondly, kudos to Io for being able to pull this off.
Sure.
Because
this is something else.
And who knows, maybe if I was going over or being one of the last two in a battle royal in a major stadium in Saudi Arabia for the WWE, I'd be a little bit more apt to take such a move like this.
Maybe.
I feel like I'm going to see it on like 16 indies though over the next month.
Yeah. You're not wrong by any means, but when she bridges and like screams for her victory was fantastic. I think the one thing that drove me a little nuts here was they did too much fighting on the ring apron instead without them looking like they're trying to throw the other one off. Like that's how you win this match.
Or trying to get back in.
Yeah,
like you need to be doing one or the other.
Particularly Lyra, like she was like doing too much setup out there without just like, how about you just push, like, I win, I did it.
Stomp on her foot real quick.
I know that's anticlimactic, but there's a lot of fighting on that ring apron, without trying to win the match.
Exactly, and I feel like that's kind of been the trend lately, and I think that's why I'm a little over it. And now then, the end of this match, the actual end of this match is still epic, and I don't want to take anything away from this. Congratulations to Io Sky. I'm actually excited to see her get a women's world title match.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this goes along with what we've been saying. It seems like they're booking her pretty strong for the last few weeks. And it turns out we get a new Wyatt video.
Yeah.
And they were not after the Final Testament. They were after Bo Dallas's former boss, I guess.
Rest in peace.
Or The Miz.
Because he's dead now, right?
He's at the very least, he's, in the basement of the Blair Witch House.
Well, like, he like snaps his neck at the end of the segment. He dead. Just
I don't know. We thought Chad was dead.
yeah, we did. White 6. They don't finish the job.
They're- I don't know what they're exactly doing with the White Six. I don't think they know
Nothing.
exactly what they're doing with the White Six.
I was really disappointed with this because I was excited for the Wyatt 6 versus the Final Testament. Like once
Because I
they're
thought
both
this could have been a
that
real
makes
fight.
complete sense.
So the only good thing I see coming out of this is, yes, the Wyatts were going after the Miz, but they still took out Paul Ellering,
Mm-hmm.
which means at the end of this, the Final Testament are still going to be going after the Wyatts. So I think we're still going to get that.
Sure.
And I think this gives a little bit more to the Final Testament, which I feel like is a group that should have more. Like, I don't understand why this is a group that can't seem to find its foot.
They just don't know what to do with them. Like they need to set it up where they have a nice little match that, like, with the people that they should beat, and start building them up because you need to build them up for main titles. Like that's what you bring monsters in for.
Yeah. I mean, AOP are completely believable, except for the fact that they're not because they never win. Karrion Kross is completely believable, except for the fact that he's not because he never wins. And like you kind of hit every aspect of it. You have these big athletic dudes who tell good stories. Not to mention you got Scarlett there, so you got the scary pretty lady. Like what else do you really need? You had Paul Ellering there as a Hall of Famer. He wasn't doing anything except for getting beat up by Bo Dallas eventually.
Just standing in the background.
Standing in the background. So I think we will still get the Wyatts in the Final Testament, mainly because they're going to need revenge for Paul. And maybe this is the way of turning the Wyatts a little bit more heel and maybe turning the Final Testament, I don't want to say face, but at least tough. So we get the New Day versus the War Raiders. The War Raiders obviously are going to take this one. Once again, there's missteps between the New Day.
Yeah, I love this New Day storyline. I'm glad they got it back on track. They're like clearly not on the same page. They are blind tagging when they shouldn't be, or it's really easy when you're on the same page with the tag team to blind tag to like have a strong finish, where you can protect the pin, you could do a lot of this other stuff, and they just were not on the same page here, and that's what cost them ultimately the match. And I like the storytelling that they had here.
I do like the story. I like that they're kind of going back to it, or that they got it back on track, like you said. I like that they're still booking the War Raiders strong. I think the War Raiders need to win these tag team titles. They need to get them off of Finn and JD. I know
they're not
that
doing anything with them there.
They're not doing anything with them there. And what's more is I know they had the confrontation between the two of them and the War Raiders, but it was only like a week ago. Like Finn was mad that he still wasn't going to be able to face Damian Priest. Yep. So I feel like this still needs to be like Finn needs to be the reason why they lose. He needs to be the distracted guy. Like, why am I not getting this rematch with Damian Priest?
Yeah.
But again,
or why wasn't he included in the match later in this night?
Why was he not included in this? Again, though, War Raiders totally deserve to be if the War Raiders are the tag team champions for the Raw side and the Motor City Machine Guns are the tag team champions for the SmackDown side, I actually feel okay with the tag titles or who they're on at that point. How they book them is going to be completely optional at that point. We get what I guess will be probably the biggest segment of the evening, and that is going to be Sammy, Jimmy, and Jay in the ring. And they're going to have it out over the events of the Crown Jewel, where Sammy says he accidentally hit Roman. He ran a little late on it.
Yeah, I don't buy it.
But you get the argument he was just there to help Jay. And then for a minute, it seemed like old times. We get all of it, and then we get Jay being the voice of reason in this one, saying he was wrong, saying Sammy's family, saying that he's Sammy Uso.
Sammy Uso.
Uso.
I popped for that a little bit.
I actually, the thing that popped me was the crowd screaming Usi.
Mm-hmm.
Once they started getting that one, I was like, all right, yeah.
Are you feeling Usi?
I think I think everyone's starting to feel a little Usi. And realistically, if we can get Sammy in there and he starts, I don't know, cracking up the bloodline a little bit, I'm okay with that again.
Bring that levity. I think that he brings a layer that, with Paul Heyman not being there, really, really helps this group.
Well, and he's a little bit more of the cunning planner guy too. So like he can kind of do that now where it's like, guys, we're not just going to go fight them. This is stupid. Like, why are we going to run into into the parking lot where they're waiting for us just to fight them?
Yeah.
I feel like Sammy's the guy that can tell you like, there's no honor in running into a loss. Like, let's make this a win instead.
Exactly. So
I do agree with you. I think he could fill that Paul Heyman void a little bit. And so we get Chad Gable versus Dragon Lee in a surprisingly really good match. Yeah, not surprisingly that it was good, just surprising that this match even happened.
From out of nowhere. It really, like, why?
Why did Ray need to provide a distraction for Dragon Lee to win? Why was he not out there to begin with? Why? Just why? Like
he's a deadbeat. That's why.
He's really coming off that way. I'm starting to question Rey Mysterio. He might have gotten too big for his britches, which is weird because he's only like 5'3". I know. And he used to wear those baggy pants, remember? I think that's the problem. Is he switched back to the tights and like now it's not as good.
Now he is too big for those britches.
For those britches, yes. But this match was actually shockingly fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not surprised that these two guys went out there and put on a good match, but I'm still kind of surprised that these two guys were in Saudi for this show.
100%.
But that leads us to the main event of the evening, a fatal 4-way number one contenders match for the World Heavyweight title. Seth Rollins, Damian Priest, Sheamus, and Dirty Dom Mysterio.
Triple H, you coward. This was the perfect opportunity for Dominic Mysterio to win and go on to face Gunther. I was under the impression that he was the number one contender. At least in my head canon, he was. After beating Priest the other day. And there was a moment in this spot where Dominic goes for a pin that Priest breaks up. I think on Sheamus. And he could have won then after Bronson Reed comes out and lays waste to everyone. I really like how he does that. Like, he doesn't just go after Rollins. Like, he goes after everybody.
He just kills everybody.
So one man.
He kills everyone except for Dominic Mysterio, who's hiding under the ring.
It's fantastic.
Because he's intelligent. I wouldn't stand in front of Bronson Reed.
Yeah, like, what's the point? But then when he goes to that pin, when he went for that pin, I was like, he's going to win this. This is fantastic. I'm really excited for Gunther versus Dominic with this, like, new little push. But then he didn't win.
It's three baby faces and Dom. Also, like, you could have evened this out a little bit more. I know Seth can kind of flow both ways. I don't totally understand why Sheamus is in this. He hasn't exactly been on a winning streak.
It was really odd.
Yeah, like I feel like there are better options for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like Sammy would have been a better option for this
Sure.
if he wasn't involved with what he was doing. Like there are guys. Why wasn't Bronson Reed involved in this? Or I'm
Bronson
sorry,
Reed
Braun
would
Breaker.
have been Braun Breaker. Bronson Reed would have been like Bronson Reed being in this match would have been perfect. But
Because you would
they
have
even brought him
Rollins.
in.
Yeah, you would have Rollins and Bronson Reed and Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio,
It would
and
have
everything
worked
would have been
perfectly.
evened out. And Bronson Reed could have killed everybody still. And then when they were like making sure he didn't actually kill somebody,
Mm-hmm.
you could have had Mysterio Dom win this match. Like you could have had him tsunami Priest like 3 times, and then be like, "No, I don't even care about winning the world title. I
Oh,
want a tsunami
yeah.
Seth Rollins on the outside 72 times." And while he's doing that, have Dom hit the frog splash and
It'd
win
been
the
perfect.
match.
This was the perfect opportunity to get him in there. I think they're building towards it. To be honest with you, I actually think that they might be actually building towards him getting a serious title, which I just cannot wait for how they do that.
I want to see how they do it. I want to see what happens. I also, though, it's funny that last week Tiffy said if I win that title, does he come with it? Because I think I said that in a show a couple weeks ago. Like, is he the jacket from Boy Meets World? Like the wrestlers, the
Yeah,
varsity jacket? Like, if you win, if you get the jacket, like he's the girlfriend that goes with it. And I say girlfriend meaning fully here because he has such luscious hair.
he sure does. That mullet.
It's perfect, that mullet. Um, but most kind of the big deal out of this was not just Priest winning and getting the number one contendership, but Bronson Reed again coming out and standing tall and kind of killing just about everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is their way of saying Bronson Reed is still going to be sticking around for this whole thing.
He will. They should have booked him to win. I made my opinion abundantly clear the other day.
So I heard this and I do agree with it. Bronson Reed standing tall at the end of the match at Crown Jewel works. The
Sure.
problem is if they had just cut away after they showed the facial of Seth Rollins looking all shocked that like I did all this and now you stood right back up.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we needed. All we needed to see was that shock in his face, like. But instead, they stayed on him for a little bit too long, and you heard Seth like turn around and like start talking trash.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the issue comes in here. If they had just left it at the that shock face, like oh my god, I can't believe they brought rotten eggs and tomatoes to this rally. Well, they always bring rotten eggs and tomatoes to a
Of
rally,
course.
but like if they had just done that scene, that oh my god, that shock, that oh my god face that Seth had for a minute, and then like cut to whatever the next segment was,
Mm-hmm.
I think Bronson would be looking a lot stronger right now. But instead, they let Seth start walking up and still like talk trash to him. But so anyway, guys, that was Raw this week. That is TNA,
Solid
and
roll.
yeah, it was pretty solid. Honestly, I like this Raw. I thought the crowd was hot. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer. I heard some people say this too, that once a crowd is hot, like it gives you a little bit more momentum to want to
Sure.
praise them even more. I know as a worker myself, when I was going out there, if I knew the crowd was hot, I worked a little bit harder for them. Now then, at the same time, sometimes if you know the crowd's not hot, you work a little bit harder to get them hot.
To heat him up.
So it's this weird balance sometimes, and it also depends on the
Yeah.
person you are. But I know when a crowd starts off hot, which they were, it entices you, like, because everyone goes out and does great, so you need to do better than who was just out there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was a far better Raw than the SmackDown that had preceded it. And I thought this was an okay week in WWE television history, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
I like that. I know we joke around that the Saudi events, if they were not canon, we'd be okay with them. but at the same time, I like that they're kind of able to intertwine some of the stuff a little bit better now. Like there's actual
They did,
storylines coming out of it. There's
yeah.
real storylines that go into this rather than, well, we really want to see the Undertaker.
They established quite a few storylines to move forward with.
I completely agree. I think TNA is doing some great work over there. Again, we talked about the stuff that happened on Impact. We've got Ricochet challenging for the IWGP title. There, maybe Backlash will be in Japan this year. Who knows?
Could be anywhere. Could even
It
be
could be
above.
anywhere. It could even be in Japan. But that's been the show this week, guys. Again, we appreciate you being along. Thank you for everyone who has checked out our Crown Jewel preview episode. That is our highest viewed episode on YouTube ever to date. So thank you. Thank you so much again. We are quickly approaching our 50th weekly episode. Obviously, with the bonuses and stuff like that we have hit 50 episodes, but this is our actual 50th numbered episode. So thank you for sticking around with us. Showtime, thank you for sticking around with me. I know Hound's not here right now, but thank you, Hound, for jumping on board with us. I think Hound has brought a beautiful air of uniqueness to him. And as always, Legion, we love you. Thank you for being here with us. And as always, hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the follows, comment. Let us know. I run most of our comment stuff. If I don't notice a comment, trust me, Showtime tells me it happens. And we get back to you guys as quickly as humanly possible. I promise.
I'm always watching.
Always. He doesn't do much else. He does a lot else, actually, but he's still always watching. He's got like 73,000 tabs open on his computer right now.
I do. You don't want to see them. There's too many of them.
They actually just beam right into his glasses now. It's very AI.
I can't find my light anymore. This is my light now.
But Showtime, you got anything you want to leave the beautiful people with?
We really appreciate you all. Thank you for joining us on this ride. Please continue the support, and we'll keep producing content for you guys to watch, listen to, or however you want to consume this show. And then, Steven?
As always, guys, tuck your chin when you bump.